And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And have your roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Paloma,
Here.
Mrs. Lee, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, here. We have the agenda as Brian presented it last to you, and as it is before you. Are there any other additions, Brian?
No, there's just one possible adjustment of 40, it's letter J, under the superintendent's new business. It says resolution to approve a contract with Ford Edge for 400 Chromebooks as presented and provide a quote. The amount there that's shown could be incorrect. David was just sharing with me here. He's got a couple different quotes. So I think we should probably change it to the wording up to that amount.
Okay, rather than all
Right.
go up to 173,000.
And when we get to that item, I will have David explain that a little bit more.
Okay.
But this purchase would be pending approval of the emergency connectivity fund, which would cover most of that cost.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Dora? Second. Okay. We'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee, Mr. Paloma,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Next, we're going to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting for April 19th. Now, did we need to approve any additional minutes? I was thinking,
They're included.
okay,
We can just go ahead. What was that date?
so in your packet, if you go through the packet, what we found as Dave so kindly was posting minutes online, we found some gaps in some of the minutes. And so we have some backward approval to do. This was at a very hectic time in terms of Townsend. That's when we were making that transition to the new administration, new structure and everything. Jeff Thompson was our superintendent. So I would like to include not only approval of April 19th, 2022, but also the special board meeting of April 17th, 2020 that we had here. And basically what that body or what that meeting was for was to talk with our attorney about our ODE settlement. That was the nature of it. So there were no minutes necessarily other than the fact that we had the meeting. So is there a motion to approve both of those meetings? So Jackie, is there a second? Second. Seconded by Dora. Any questions or discussion? No, I have the roll, please.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Paloma,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. All right, move on to Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I'm not in person.
That's okay.
We have the band concert this evening, so I'm just presenting you my phone. We actually have, I'll sound like quite a bit, but we have some new developments. Ryan, myself, Allie Downey, and Carrie Keller meet tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. And what that meeting is for is to go over making sure there are no drop responsibilities, misunderstandings about the epicenter upload that will happen for May, which is the quality practices upload. It will be, I think, fairly easy because currently we have most everything in the forms that need to be there, and that is a huge positive. And then our compliance one in June, we will also talk about, and Ryan, with all the work that he's done with the Google Drives, different policies and all of that, is going to make that one significantly more smooth than
know, Steve, thank you so very much.
Oh, no problem. Once again, I just wanted to say kudos to Ryan because what he's done with the Google Drive, I'm very excited. I don't think there'll be any corrective action plans, because I think that just, the organization will lend itself to being very compliant. So we're excited.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Steve.
Thank you and enjoy the rest of the concert.
All right, take care, guys.
You too,
Bye,
Steve.
bud.
Bye.
Very good. We had had a meeting with the sponsor last Thursday and talked about just what a better place we're at, just in terms of the school, the things that the administration, including Ryan, had done to get ready for all the compliance kinds of things, so things are going very well. Further, under President's report, we continue to work on policy, and I apologize for what seemed to be confusion about what Adam was sending us and then what we sent out to you. Basically, what we decided to do is, rather than deal with all of those 300 level policies tonight, when we didn't really have a chance to fine tune them as much as what we wanted to, let alone with you guys, we decided to only address certain policies that we know we need to do for compliance, as well as any financial responsibilities that we have for the school year. And then we will take a look at those policies in July, when the school year begins. They don't significantly impact what we're doing. And one of the biggest things that we had to do was go through and change our name. So we were no longer Townsend North Community School, but Townsend Community School, as well as exchanging the word principal for superintendent, because all of those templates refer to a principal but never a superintendent. So we did those kinds of changes. So we're gonna hold that on rather than do a haphazard job now. We were all nervous about it equally, so that worked out well. The only thing that I have under legislative report is I wanted to make you aware that the legislature is looking at how we're going to be handling substitute teachers for next year. During COVID, there were special provisions that allowed individuals to substitute who weren't necessarily fully credentialed. We'll see how that pans out. The legislature is still working with that. I think that all's been decided, but I wanted to make you aware of that in particular. Does anyone under the liaisons have anything to report? And if not, we'll go ahead and move on to the treasurer's report.
The first item under the treasurer's report is the opportunity for comment to the general public regarding the school's use of IDA Part B funds. These are this is our special education grant. This year, we used some of that money, if you recall, back in September to pay some of the, because we met MOE last year and we were able to put some of the July and August salaries into the IDA funds that were going to expire, that we were going to lose from 2020. And we also spent some of that money on our sensory room, getting the wobbly stools and the fidget toys and things like that. Other than that, the funds for this year, because of what we discussed with maintenance of effort and claiming the higher FTE percentage, claiming the 100%, we're expected to spend a lot more than what was initially anticipated. We didn't realize that until February when the FTE rose. So we haven't spent any of this year's funds, and we're not going to be able to in order to meet maintenance of effort. I'm happy to report though that with Ashley's help, she's been helping me spend a lot of that money. I do think we're going to be able to meet it. It's going to come really close, but I think we're going to get there by the end of June, so I'm excited about that. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Did those purchases include the computers or Chromebooks?
Yes, we did. We got the Chromebooks that we talked about at the last meeting, as well as the iPads. And I do think that's a really nice purchase because, as David's mentioned before, we're having a hard time getting Chromebooks back at times, and a lot of our students come to us needing them. So to have a special amount reserved for our sped students, and we got them a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger screens, a little bit more robust. So I think that was a really smart purchase.
Good.
If you want to go ahead and open up your board packets.
And did you want to mention the email that you got today?
Oh, I did get an email today about, or I got a letter in the mail, I should say, from Bureau of Workman's Comp informing me that we are going to undergo an audit from them as well. They gave me a list of documents to expect to prepare. I spoke with Betty, just asked her if she's experienced this because I don't believe I've experienced any of it last year with Mike at all. And she said it's not usually too intensive. It's definitely not any worse than the financial audit, so it should be okay. I sent in our response and I haven't heard back yet about scheduling it, but I will keep the board updated when I know a little bit more. The top of your packet is just the minutes for April 19th, as well as those 2020 minutes, so we can go ahead and look past those.
If I could get it. Yeah, so that. No, this one. Yeah.
One more page, we're almost there.
Okay. I think I'm almost there. Okay. There you go. Okay, yeah, you're there. Okay.
Our first page then for our financial reports is our cash reconciliation. You can see we ended the month with $5,555,068.82. Following our cash reconciliation, we have our disbursement summary report. Nothing really out of the ordinary this month. Nothing particularly that we needed to take note of. Following our disbursement summary, we've got our outstanding disbursement summary. And if nobody has any questions over those, we can go ahead and get into our spreadsheet. So we discussed last month with the correction that they made to our funding, that we would probably see another negative month or a negative month in April, which we did. With the cash reconciliation in mind, we are above 5 million in our bank account, so it's not detrimental by any means. We're going to look at the forecast tonight, which will give us an idea of our picture overall again. And that change, like we talked about last time, hasn't made a huge impact overall. We're still ending the year in a very good place. One thing I wanted to touch base on is if you look in the bottom right section, you'll see a couple of high percentages, one being the supplies. So if you see the 177%, that comes with that maintenance of effort purchase we talked about. We probably see those supplies go up. Next month, we're going to see the salaries and benefits go up as well, because I took Johanna Pachoki and Kristen Bell out of IDA. I hadn't requested any refunds on that money yet, and so we hadn't technically spent it out of IDA. And in looking at the maintenance of effort, I waited up until I felt like I couldn't wait anymore to see if I was going to be able to keep at least one of them in there. And to meet maintenance of effort, we're not going to be able to. The good news is that even though they will have to come out of the general fund next year, I plan on putting both of the new intervention specialists into IDA for next year. We'll be in a little bit easier spot with our FTE not being at 100% next year to meet needs of effort. So we'll be able to put both those teachers into IDA, which will help offset that a little bit. But you will see the salaries and benefits inflate next month because of that. The other objects is also a little bit high this month, 132%. That's just because of the audit costs. We're getting the bills for our financial audit. Love that they audit us and make us pay for it. It's really great. It's my favorite. But if you look over to the left under the expenses, you will see our total percentage remains good. We're at 69.05%, and we're 10 months in. We would anticipate being at about 83.33%. So we're still under where we wanted to be expense-wise. Are there any questions on this spreadsheet?
So the excess of expenses then over the income is because, like, if our percentage is that good, then what makes our expenses inflated over the income? Just
Well,
because of the adjustment?
Well, the adjustment to our formula, or
Yeah.
funding formula,
Yeah.
because they overpaid us by that big
Okay.
amount, it caused our monthly payments to go significantly
Okay.
down. So
Okay,
our monthly payment looks low, but our yearly amount is still good.
okay,
So I've included our monthly payment in our summary payment in the next two sheets. So maybe rip one of them and put them side by side and kind of touch base on those. I see weird So the monthly payment, our May payment, if you look at the very bottom right corner, you'll see $108,155 after our paybacks to the state and after our retirement. So that is a lower payment, even from last month, even from April. So again, we are seeing an impact to our monthly payment. It is fairly low, but if you look at the other sheet, the summary school finance payment report, in the lowercase b column at the bottom, you can see our yearly funding is still over $6 million. So we're still significantly above what we had anticipated being at this year. That's thanks to being able to claim 100% FTE this year. We know we won't be able to do that next year, but for this year, it's been very helpful. And also the new funding formula did give us an increase. So even though we're seeing them pull back some of that, and we're seeing lower monthly payments, our yearly amount is still good. If there's no questions over that, I'm going to move on to the 5-year forecast, but I actually provided a new copy, not the one that's stapled in your packet. I realized I didn't change a date in one of the areas. Yeah, just the one that's got it front and back. So this is not significantly different from what we've gone over in some of the previous months. There haven't been a huge amount of changes. If you look under fiscal year 2022, you can see I have adjusted our revenue amount to reflect the lower amount that they've given us. I put it slightly under what they even have on that summary report, just because it went down from April to May. So I anticipate potentially going down from May to June. I would rather come in under what they give us rather than projecting over. When you go through our expenses, as well as our grant reimbursement, at the bottom of fiscal year 2022, you can see that we're going to come in with a cash balance above $5 million. So we are sitting in a good spot financially in terms of our total cash balance. Looking to 2023 and 2024, you'll see that the anticipated revenue does drop significantly. I know we kind of went over this in detail, calculating that amount and how we use the detailed payment to do that. I'm hoping this is a very conservative amount. I'm hoping it actually comes in a little bit higher than that, but just because of the way that the funding formula has been so hit or miss, and they've talked about so many changes, again, I wanted to be conservative with the amount. Also, one thing to note, I did still keep the payback for maintenance of effort in our fiscal year 2022. We shouldn't be paying back a large amount. Like I said, I think we're going to either come extremely close to meeting it or we're going to meet it. I think
where is that?
It's included in, I believe, the other debt. So that large amount, that 500,000, it's lumped in there.
Okay.
Yeah, 819.
Okay.
We will see some of our those paybacks go up next year for reasons of our paybacks to the state is based off of a percentage of our funding, as well as our payback to Margaretta is based off a percentage of our funding. So because we got a higher amount of funding this year, we will pay a little bit more next year. That'll settle the following year when we get a lower amount of revenue next year. So we'll be looking at a little bit higher payments. I know that this year, when we were experiencing that at the beginning of the year, when we were paying a higher amount, the ODE did a true up in January.
I think that's standard. I think they will do that.
Right. So I think we'll pay back probably a higher amount for the first 6 months, and then when they do a true up, they'll lower our payment a little bit to reflect where our current FTE is sitting at. The 5-year forecast does include anticipated increases in medical insurance costs. It also includes the assumption, if you flip to the back side, and if you go past the introduction to the state foundation payments, you'll see in bold, I did include, we're operating under the assumption that grant reimbursement is included and that current allowable expenses under ESSER are allowed to continue despite the increase in funding. We do have ESSER funds up until September 2024. I'm just stating that the current things that they're letting us spend it on continue. So we're operating under that assumption. Just as a reminder, we did build in the base raise and step next year, and then the forecast reflects a step each coming year as well. Not a base raise every year, but we did include a step each year, as discussed. The only other thing I wanted to make sure I pointed out, and I'm actually sorry, I'm gonna have you flip again. If you look at the table that's at the very bottom, the projected debt, this is coming straight out of the spreadsheet that ODE gave us. I'm anticipating that we actually paid off a little bit less this year than that amount because of that true up that they did in January. They should be getting us an updated payment schedule.
I don't know where you're at, Kelsey.
The smaller table, the bigger one, the projected debt.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that we're paying off a little bit less of the principal retirement because they lowered our payment in January, but they haven't provided us with an updated payment schedule yet. Last year we received it in June, so I plan on, if we don't receive it at some point in June, I plan on reaching out and just touching base with them about that because hopefully we can get an updated one.
Okay. And the percent that we're paying back to the state is still 8%?
It is currently, they haven't upped it to 12, so. And we didn't get an FTE review, so that should remain because the only reason it was going to go up were if there were findings on our FTE review, correct?
If there's a disparity, I think of maybe 6%.
Yeah.
And then it jumps up to
The 12,
12%.
but we're not even having it.
We should not have that problem, honestly, with the adjustments we made, right? We're reporting attendance. We really shouldn't
Yes.
ever have that problem.
Could you explain the line that says it's under operating disbursements, excess of operating receipts over under operating disbursements? So that is money, explain that to me. It's under total operating disbursements.
So it would be negative if we were spending more than we brought in. It's positive because if you look at our total revenue at 6.2 million, and then our total operating disbursements, our expenses were about 4.2 million.
Okay, but aren't the parentheses, that's true for 2022, but then does it go negative in 23, 24, 25, and 26?
It does, but that's because we're including all of the salaries that we pay out of grants in those expenses. And then if you look below it at the grant reimbursement, when that gets factored in, so we're paying things out of ESSER, we're paying things out of Title I, then we come in positive. So if next year we're projected to be positive 172,000. So not nearly what we were this year,
Okay,
but we are coming in the positive, and we've discussed how once the ESSER money runs out, we definitely see a negative impact. You know, we see that we're coming in negative amounts for the year, and that's when we'll have to look at our staffing, look at where we're at revenue wise. We're looking at increasing enrollment, increasing attendance percentages, things that we can do to increase our revenue. We've also talked about being able to put, for example, some of the tutors into our Title I fund. So this is, again, this is conservative, but I'd rather come in conservative than.
right. And then tell me where the FTE amounts are then.
If you,
Oh, I see, total student FTE under staffing enrollment, right?
Yep.
So you're figuring 353 students, 358 students, and 363 students
so I was very,
full-time,
oh, that's the attendance percentage factored in.
okay,
So we have about 512 students right now, but we're claiming 100% FTE. So next year, when we go back to claiming that attendance percentage, I believe I used 69%. So again, being cautious, but that's including the attendance percentages.
Okay.
Right now, we're getting the 100%, and that will continue next year as far as what they told us.
okay. Does everybody understand it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's not a huge drop in our actual student count. It's just that right now we get that 100%.
Right,
So great.
it's so prudent, I think, on our part. It's discouraging, but it's prudent to stay at 69, 70%, so that we don't overspend it.
Right.
Let's keep going that way, otherwise. Wonderful, yes.
If there's no other questions, I believe that is the end of my report.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve the person report as submitted? Second. Roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Sully,
Yes.
Mr. Paloma, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, thank you again. Great. All right, we'll move on to Brian, your report and recommendation.
First of all, I want to start with our monthly enrollment report here. Take a look in your folder. It's got the breakdown. As of today, this morning, our enrollment was 521 students. So that's a decrease from maybe a week or two ago. We have had some students that have been withdrawn due to non-activity with the 72-hour rule, but also we have had some graduates as well. We've got some NE graduates that we're in the process of reviewing. So this is not a surprise at this time of the year. Enrollments start to die down a little bit here in the last few weeks of school, but also we are graduating quite a few students. So that number is going to drop here over the last few weeks of school. So we're at 521 students. 519 of those come from within schools at least partially lying our 6 county radius. So we only have 2 students left that are from outside of the 6 county radius. And we have 1 each from Clear Fork and Upper Sandusky.
And are those students set to be graduating soon?
I would have to check. I am not
Okay.
certain.
All right.
I imagine they've got to get closer.
Yeah.
Fremont continues to be our most populated area, followed by Norwalk, and then third is Sandusky. Beyond this, for informational items, we are getting closer on the sponsor compliance review items that Steve was talking about. Put a lot of time in preparing those. And a big thank you also to our administrative team. I've had to reach out to them requesting different items, and they've helped pull a lot of data in so that we can be prepared and provide Margaret with the evidence that we need to show that we're in compliance with many, many state laws. It's a huge task, and big kudos to everyone who's giving a hand on that. Appreciate the help.
Our Upper Sandusky student graduated this week.
All right.
It's on the list.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I'm like, I think he's done. Yeah, he's done.
Pending approval. That's probably Jackson. Right? Okay, so moving on then to new business. Item A, our graduates. We have several graduates here to approve the awarding of high school diplomas with following students upon successful completion of graduation requirements as set forth by the state of Ohio. And again, the students listed here are students who have been confirmed as finishing up. Item B is a resolution to move the June 21st board meeting to Tuesday, June 7th at 7 p.m. So that would be a change by 2 weeks there. I am going to be going on vacation with my family from June 15th through the 26th. We're going to take a vacation down to Daytona and Orlando. We do drive our family of six, we don't fly, we drive everywhere we go. So that's why it's gonna take that time span. And one of my daughters is also going to compete at the National Gymnastics Meet in Daytona over on vacation down there. So that'll be a fun time. And Kelsey's going to be going on vacation around the same time frame as well. So we just would ask that we consider moving that board meeting to June 7th for the month of June. Item C is a resolution to accept the resignation of intervention specialist Amanda Apple for the 2022-2023 school year. We did approve last year or last month a contract for Amanda for the upcoming school year, so we do need to accept the resignation. She has accepted a position at Vanguard, and she has aspirations of hopefully going into administration down the road, and she felt that that was a move that would help her to go in that direction. We thank Amanda.
If we accept that as correct.
We wish her well and thank her for her 6 years of Townsend as an intervention specialist. Item D is a resolution to approve Tori Ruiz for the classified position of enrollment specialist for the 2022-23 school year at a salary of $43,000, which is a 220-day contract, including non-administrative staff, Exhibit B. If approved, this would replace her previously approved contract as data entry assistant and student success plans that was approved in April of 2022. Item E is a resolution to approve an amendment to employment agreement with Sherry Beckley effective May 4th of 2022 through July 31st of 2022. Item F is a resolution to approve the second amendment to the renewal contract for TCS, which was approved by the Margaret Local School District on May 9th, 2022. This is an item that the lawyers of both our schools brought up that we need to make sure that we recognize this amendment for this year to make sure that we are in compliance. And a copy of that is included in your folder. Upon approval, we will need signatures, I believe, from every board member on the back page, and then also the governing, let's see, I believe the president. That's probably the superintendent's second last page, but we can handle that afterwards upon approval. Okay, item G is a resolution to approve the following policies as presented. Policy 377 is the severance policy. Policy 381 is personal leave. 381.1 sick time. 381.2 is personal days, and 381.3 is vacation days. And copies of these policies are in your folder. And also we have policy 401.3, which is procurement of inhaler epinephrine auto-injector for emergency use, and also policy 455 is food standard policy. Both of those last two are items that deal with sponsored compliance review, items that we need to improve on an annual basis.
And I did want to point out to the board that if you look at the policy for personal time, under personal days, that particular policy is earmarked to start for the next school year. So we're approving it now, but it will begin for the next school year.
Can I ask a question on that? If at the bottom, it says that unused personal days will not be subject to payout and will expire this school year. In the past, unused personal days have rolled to sick days.
Right.
Will that still happen? My concern is, I know there's some staff that have not used personal days, and knowing that there's only 15 days of school left, if they're told they're going to lose 3 personal days, we're going to have a lot of staff members taking personal days these last 3 weeks of school, myself being one of them.
So that won't impact this year's personal days.
So they're not going to expire, they'll still.
Those would be still treated under the previous
Okay.
policy, but moving forward for next year, the staff would have the opportunity to receive payment that was on each purchase.
I was just,
But
I
it
was
says
concerned
will
with the
instead expire.
will instead expire, not will
And that was
roll
added.
as sick
Alan
as.
did add that today.
Yeah.
He was trying to make sure that people understood that they wouldn't be paid out.
Right, I think we should just eliminate and will instead expire.
Yeah. So just leave it, will not be subject to payout.
Right,
That makes sense.
because I agree with you too.
Yeah.
Okay, that was one reason.
Staffing issue.
That
we
was,
were-
right. And
We
that was
were-
one reason why we didn't want to
Tamper with it this year.
Yeah. for
Well,
this
and we
year.
thought there'd be people upset that they used them if they knew, so
Right,
Right, so
totally makes sense.
I think he was just trying to clarify that they wouldn't be paid out, but I think if we eliminate the and will instead expire, then
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah,
So just put a period after words paid.
Okay.
Yes.
right.
We'll make that change.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, item H is a resolution to approve memorandum of understanding or MOU with Terre State Community College for providing CCP courses to Townsend students for the 22-23 school year. Item I is a resolution to renew a contract with NOECA for the 2022-2023 as presented, and a copy of that along with the MOU from Terre State. Copies of both of those are in the folder.
And did that contract change much from the
No, I don't believe
preceding
there are
year?
significant changes, no.
Okay.
And then item J is a resolution to approve a contract with Ford Edge for 400 Chromebooks as presented and provided quote up to, that's the wording change there, made up to $173,752 pending approval of emergency connectivity funds. And I'm gonna let David talk about this because he's been dealing with this for the most part.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this brief because I know you guys have something coming up here soon. I'm a member of a statewide tech coordinators organization, and we bounce ideas off each other. There's about 400 of us. So when I go out to bid, I'm always getting recommendations from people that have used these vendors in the past. Well, in the past, we've only gone with really a couple, and I wanted to open it up and do some more bidding. This group, Ford Edge, they actually bid on our E-rate as well, and so did X-Tech, which is the other company that I got bids from, and then I went with Trafara, who we've worked with in the past. Ford Edge, they get really good pricing on Lenovo's, and we like these Lenovo Chromebooks. They're very durable. Actually Trafara's price went up, and it's the same device that we're already using. So anyway, they had the best price. The Ecf Fund is a government grant, up to $400 per device. The only thing that the board would have to pay for with this purchase is the Google licenses, because the Ecf does not cover the licensing. And it works just like Windows does. The license stays with the computer for the life of the computer. When the computer is taken out of service, you can't transfer the license. So if you buy a new computer, you have to buy a new license. And those are $29 per device. The process, you can only request devices for students that are in need. I worked with our consultant. We actually gave out 398 Chromebooks last year. When last year was the first year that Townsend was literally 1-to-1, where every student receives a Chromebook. So I asked the consultant, can I use that number, 400, to apply for the grant? He said, your logic is reasonable, and I think it will be fine. So that's what we went with. So that's where the 400 is based on what we gave out last year. So I do anticipate that the reason I asked you to do a preliminary approval is because it's summer and supply chains are really bad. And we're down to like 25 Chromebooks that are in circulation right now. So I'm going to need these when the school year begins. And you never know when those boats are going to come over across the ocean. So it will not exceed the amount that you approved tonight. So that's what we're doing. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. And with the conclusion of item J, that is all I have for items A through J.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve items A through J as presented? So, Jackie? Second. Seconded. Any questions? not, we'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Paloma,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. I would like to ask for, that we go out briefly for an executive session to consider the compensation of a public employee. Moved by Israel, is there a second? Seconded by Dora. Roll please.
Mr. Paloma.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee. Yes. Mrs. Smith.
Yes. No action, thank you, no action taken. And I ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Jack, is there a second? Second, or second. All in favor? Opposed? We adjourn.